Welcome back to another episode of Obsessed by Everything Bravo. My name's Meredith and I am your host on this journey through the Real Housewives. And we're finally back in the land of the Real Housewives, the Real Housewives of Atlanta to be exact, season 4. And this episode we're going to be talking about episode 2 of season 4 of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, entitled Surprisingly Rich. I hope you guys are all having an amazing day. And as always, let's revisit the Housewives with a modern day lens, a feminist lens, an anthropological lens, and see what's going on there. So the first episode that we had was everybody's divided. So we got kind of NeNe and Cynthia on one side and then everyone else on the other side right now. Everybody is mad about NeNe getting the illustrious position of celebrity apprentice. And she is a rich. And so Shereé has said that there's a scheme that NeNe is a part of to, I guess, steal money out of their mouths. And NeNe is basically like, your couple $1,000s doesn't affect me. You know, Shereé also is making appearances at birthday parties for her job now. I don't know why. I don't know why that made me laugh. And Kim is heavily pregnant. That's basically and Phaedra wants to open up a funeral home. We haven't got to that part yet where she specifically states that, but that's the intention. And that's kind of where we open. So the first scene is NeNe, Kandi, and Cynthia are in a car and they're driving somewhere. And you don't really know at first because they don't state explicitly, but apparently they've all gone down to Miami for a little girls trip, just the three of them, because NeNe wanted to get out of Atlanta and say goodbye to the haters. So the three of them are going. Now, the Kandi being there to me was a little weird. I just don't ever see like but Kandi is very much like Switzerland in a way that Cynthia wants to be, and I think is probably now, but cannot be when she's kind of moored to NeNe. She has to be on NeNe's side because of their friendship contract. If you forgot about that friendship contract from last year, she is BFF with NeNe. They're tied together. But Kandi is what Cynthia wants to be, which is this friend to everyone, right? The thing about that is when you're a friend to everyone, you're a friend to no one, if you know what I'm saying. All right. So they are going to have a little girls' weekend. They get to their hotel, which they name, and they're greeted with wet towels and a cocktail. Now, I find the wet towel thing so interesting because it's always like presented as this like the biggest high class thing, like to have a wet towel to refresh yourself with. And I'm sure like in the 1800s or the early 1900s that probably was, but let me just have a powder room and I'm going to wash my hands. Like I don't need your wet towel that I don't know what kind of microbes are growing on that. Like how, I don't know. For me, it's not it for me. But a drink upon arrival, I like that. But also after I wash my hands, because like I've been traveling, I've been to the airport. Airports are so grimy. Anyway, Kandi says, I'm not sure what will happen between NeNe and I. She does have a history of flipping out on folks, so I'm hoping everything will go smoothly. And now we go over to Kim's, and she's laying in her bed again. Like this bitch, the only thing that she does when she's pregnant is lay in her bed. And honestly, probably when she's not pregnant. Kim's birthday is coming up. So remember, Kim and Kandi have like a really close birthday. And so her birthday's coming up, and Kroy and Sweetie are wanting to plan like a surprise birthday for her. And Kroy really wants to make it special because he knows birthdays are important to Kim and she deserves everything because she's had a rough 9 months. So they're going to try to just like invite their friends and keep the other idiots out of it. I don't know. And then we have a scene where Phaedra goes back to the funeral home. She meets with that guy, Willie Watkins, and she's like, hey, I want to open my own funeral home. And I just feel like that's bad business, because why are you going to go to your competition and be like, hey, I want to, like, maybe if it was like, hey, I want a franchise, I want to start a franchise of your funeral home and I'll do it. But no, she's like, I'm going to start a competing funeral home. Why is he going to tell you anything, babe? Like, that's dumb. So we go back to Miami, and Kandi is like, the other day, I heard that the other day you were saying, I'm rich. And NeNe goes, well, I did it because I am. And this is why I love NeNe, because it's like, is it a lie if you believe it? I mean, I don't know if she's rich or not, but it's just like, she's standing 10 toes down, and you know what, that's called authenticity. And she's like, I am rich, but it doesn't matter if she is or she isn't, she believes it. So then then Kandi tells us, look, if you have new money, you could have a couple $100,000 or even $1 million, you think you're rich. Which is also, these people are just funny. They're just reading each other down. It is hilarious. So NeNe goes, I told her I was rich because guess what? I am. Those are facts. She came into me and she had already made her mind up and like said that I tried to take something away from her or I took something away from her. This is just all her and Kim getting together to conspire to do whatever they want to do to me. And Candy's like, well, why do you think her and Kim got together? Or like, why do you think her and Kim are together? And NeNe's like, because they are. I have no issues with Shereé. And then all of a sudden there's a huge issue. Kim has an issue with me. So now Shereé has an issue with me and they can both kiss my ass because it's a lot of bullshit and I'm not going to get involved in that. So then Cynthia's sitting there the whole time, not saying a word. Cynthia tells us, if NeNe wants to tell people she's rich, let her tell people she's rich. Everybody else wants to talk about their money. Big papa this, big papa that. It's not my problem. It's only a problem when NeNe says it. And she's right. Like, obviously, if Kandi knew about this, then Shereé was telling everybody that NeNe went into that meeting and also saying the reason they had a meeting, like Shereé is telling people, oh, she tried to steal money from me. So Shereé is telling all the other people, if Kandi knew about it, it got back to her somehow, right? And Kim for years was talking about Big Papa buying me a car, he pays my mortgage, yada yada yada, when she's a mistress. Do you know what I'm saying? And nobody, only NeNe was the only one that had any problem to say about this. But now NeNe is getting opportunities and making money and everybody has got things to say about it. I mean, Cynthia's not wrong here. And NeNe at the table is basically like, I just want to have a good girls weekend. I don't want to talk about them this whole time. And Kandi is like, well, what is it that you do want to talk about then? And Kandi says, I'm trying to take steps with NeNe carefully because she has a cool, fun side, but she also has a scary side. And so now they're talking about how NeNe is single, and so they might be looking for a man. Kandi's looking for a man. She's single as well. But then they find out that it's apparently Lesbian Pride weekend in Miami because they're like, it's only women around here. And then somebody walks by and they're like a lesbian couple, and they're like, yeah, it's Lesbian Pride this weekend. And they're like, oh, okay, we're not going to find the men. So now Shereé, we go to Shereé, and she's taking her son Cairo to get some football cleats. And I just have to say, she took him to that Play It Again Sports, which is a used sports store. So you're trying to tell me that you were getting a 7-figure settlement. Do you remember that? Remember that back in the day? The 7-figure settlement? Your husband played professional sports. Like, Cairo's father was a professional athlete, and you're getting him used cleats. I'm telling you, my son plays football. Nobody is going to want to stick their foot in those cleats after a season. I mean, maybe if somebody was like, oh, I want to play football, and they go to 3 practices and then they're like, oh, I don't want to play football. I don't know. But Cairo is just pretending. I mean, not pretending. He is being like just the typical teenage boy on camera. Also, you can just tell some people some people really don't want to be on camera, especially in that awkward teen stage. Like when they're little kids, it's probably fun to have cameras in your home and following you around. But once you get to be a teenager, you're trying, some people like it, like Kim's kids. But some kids don't, and they just want to be distant. So he's like, he is very not talking. And I'm like, oh, that reminds me of my son. And so she says that he's just shy and she's trying to give him love advice, and she really thinks that Cairo missed out on having a male role model. So she's now that the divorce is settled and over and all this stuff, she's trying to get her ex Bob, which we will meet, to spend more time with him. So I guess that's going to be her story arc for the season. Like, Shereé's really not doing that much. Now, I love Shereé because she is the exact example of somebody who doesn't really have a lot going on in their personal life. Like, they don't have like a personal storyline. But whenever we get together, they're like in the mix. Like, how many times has Shereé given us amazing fights? Like, Who Gonna Check Me, Boo is probably what put Real Housewives of Atlanta on the map. Also, she's the one that didn't allow NeNe to come to her birthday party. She wasn't on the list. And that started basically the entire arc of that whole season. Now, granted, it was like 6 episodes, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that started the interplay, the fighting. And so she's not ever doing a lot like with herself. Like last season, she was trying to be an actor, and now she's doing birthday parties. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why that just makes me laugh. Like, she said appearances, which is like, that's one thing, but like she said upscale parties, and I just can't get the thought of like hiring a Disney princess for your 6-year-old's party. I can't get that out of my head that that's what she's doing. I know it's not, but it's just like what I'm picturing. So anyway, but Shereé is a perfect example of somebody who you keep around, who gets in the mix, and when she's with other people, she's in the mix and she's fighting. Not so much in these episodes that I've seen, but like just historically, she's always doing the most at like an event. But she doesn't have a lot going on in herself. And that's just like kind of one example. There's going to be lots of examples of that, I think, throughout Housewives. I feel like Lisa Vanderpump can be like that. Sometimes, like this past season of Housewives, like Lisa Vanderpump's story arc was Pandora getting married. I mean, to me, that's not that interesting. Maybe it was interesting 15 years ago. I don't care for it now. But it's like, what are you really doing? Well, nothing, except for she was like really instrumental in the things that happened along the way. If it wasn't for her having that tea party, then Camille never, and Taylor trying to get everybody against her, then Camille never would have outed the abuse, and we never would have finished that, to completion. So, I don't know, just something interesting about Shereé that I wanted to bring up. We go back to Miami, and apparently they're down there because NeNe wanted to check out some properties. So they're going to look at houses, and NeNe is telling us that doing Celebrity Apprentice has brought her a lot of good money, and she's in a much different situation than she was before, because before Greg was the breadwinner and she was like dependent on him. But now that she's surpassed even what he was doing for her. And that's this is very interesting. It's like all these things kind of aligned very well for NeNe, and she's just like in a really good place. Like, she was a traditional housewife in that she was at home with the children, and when we meet her, her son's like school aged, which is where you don't need that many, you don't need to do that much with them, right? So she had a little bit of extra time and to do the Housewives. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm getting at. But Greg was working and making the money, and it seems like he was getting more successful. So she felt like she was the Joneses, and they had a beautiful home. She gets on the Housewives, and that brings in money. And I'm telling you, these early seasons of Housewives are not making that much. Like, definitely not not enough to do like the glam and the name brands that they do now, right? But she's getting a little bit exposure, and then, she gets divorced. This divorce with Greg starts, or she separates, and it's just like aligns where you would think getting a divorce from him would put her in a bad situation financially. But instead, she actually came out on top because she had this celebrity apprentice, and a lot of doors started opening up for her. And, she became a household name. So she's able to do brand deals, and she's able to have business opportunities. And it just kind of like aligned to where now she's in a much better place than even she was a year ago, still married. So I just think that that's interesting. And we need to not forget that when we think about how she's moving in these situations, because if things align for you like that, you start to think in your head, hey, I definitely like have created these scenarios that everything just lines up for me. No matter what I do, everything works out perfect for me. So just think about that moving when we move forward in these group scenarios. Like, she really is thinking like her shit doesn't stink. And what I think is interesting about this is it's like she is the Bethany and the Jill of the Atlanta. And so moving forward, let's just kind of keep that in the back of our brains. So anyway, they're looking at houses, and Kandi tells us, I don't like to count other people's wallets, but I do think she's maybe making too big of a leap here. And NeNe tells us, I'm just going to be smart. I know real estate is going down right now, so it's a good time to buy. Good time to buy not multi-million-dollar properties in Florida. Okay. I can tell you that right now. Okay. So now they're going to the beach. They talk about dating. They talk about body issues. Nothing much going on there. Now we go over to Kim and Shereé. They're going out to eat. So NeNe just said that they're in league together, right? Against her. So they are basically talking about NeNe the whole time. And Kim says that NeNe has never had the same friend for more than a month. And Shereé goes, I thought we were cool. And Kim says, I haven't spoken to that bitch in 10 months. I could care less. She has burned every bridge. I don't know. Something about this is sitting wrong with me. Shereé tells us, NeNe, something's wrong with her. She gets into it with everybody, from me to Lisa to Kandi to Kim to Dwight and a slew of other people. Well, yeah. That's the show. Also, did she get into it with Lisa? And also, like, she's been into it with you. You started it, and Kim started it. Like, let's for a moment pause and go back to season 1 when Shereé did not let NeNe into that party. And then suddenly Kim, who was supposed to be NeNe's best friend, she left with her that night, but she's supposed to be NeNe's best friend, became best friends with Shereé. So much also, I want to point this out too, that they had both said that they didn't really know each other, they were not friends, and NeNe was keeping them apart. That was the whole thing. Oh, NeNe kept us apart for years. Just okay, because then at some point Kim says, I've known Shereé for 10 years. No, you haven't. Because when you met 4 years ago, you both said that NeNe kept y'all apart. Okay. But that was the beginning in season 1. Okay. We're going to work through that. Then we move on to season 2, and Kim, who had said, hey, we should do a song together, cut NeNe out of the song because she didn't want to share because she's a toddler. And that's what basically started the fight of last season, because honestly, NeNe's feelings were hurt about Kim doing this song without her, and she's able to do all these appearances and do all this stuff and making all this money. And that was not a couple $1,000 appearance. That was hundreds of $1,000, millions potentially, depending on how well the song does, that Kim cut NeNe out. So what are you saying? Like, what are you saying? Like, you all are the ones that have been stabbing her in the back for fucking years, cutting her out of business deals for years. All of a sudden, she's just treating you with the same energy, and she's burned every bridge. No, because also Dwight let's talk about this. The people that she named. Lisa, I don't recall her having a thing with Lisa. That maybe that happened off camera, but Kandi, the only reason she was mad at Kandi is because y'all went behind her back to not do the song. Dwight was spreading rumors that Greg owed him money and wouldn't pay him back. That doesn't start with her. She's just reacting to it. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be like a NeNe apologist or something, but it just like it I really don't like it when these people will other somebody. I mean, it's like the same shit for Roni, and they're always othering Alex. Do you know what I'm saying? Like Alex, they just think they're so much better than Alex. And for years, Bethany was the only person who would even film with Alex. I mean, Ramona was walking off the stage to not film with Alex, right? And Bethany was the only one who was filming with her. And it just bothers me when they do this. And I'm not saying that NeNe wasn't, I guarantee you, and only because this was a pattern with her, she was acting insufferable because she got on Celebrity Apprentice. But these people started it, essentially. They've been doing this shit for years, and they just want to turn the tables. So now Kim's still at the table. The whole time they're talking about NeNe, right? And Kim's like, what was that damn show she did? Oh, The Apprentice. I said, please, bitch, you know what show she was on. And I cannot, because things are so different now with streaming. I just cannot really describe the difference between celebrity by being on Bravo, which is niche. Now, niche to millions of people are tuning in to these shows, versus on a network television show. Like this Celebrity Apprentice is the reason we have Donald Trump in the office. I mean, it's not the only reason, but if it was some random nobody who was spouting off all this racist bullshit and sexist bullshit, xenophobic bullshit, he wouldn't have gotten past Idaho or whatever. I don't know what's the Iowa. You know what I'm saying? Like, he wouldn't have even got his name on the ballot for. It's because of his celebrity and who they thought he was on this Celebrity Apprentice that we are in this situation right now. This was such being on the show was such a big deal and so much bigger than Bravo, bigger even than the things that Bethany was doing, right? Because it's still, Bethany had built-in fans, but it's still niche, you know, like, because who's buying Skinny Girl margaritas? Well, it's going to be Bravo girlies and fans who watched the show and was like, hey, I also like to be thin. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to buy this specific margarita. And then maybe it took off from there, but it's not, if she was, you know, if Bethany had made the leap to this, then she would have been a billionaire years before she was, right? So I need you to understand like how big this was at the time. We're still talking about 2011. This is not 2026 where everything is very personalized and we're all just watching whatever we want because of the internet and because of streaming. This was like still when you had appointment television and people were tuning in to The Apprentice. Okay. So to be like, what show was she on? It's not like she was on a Lifetime movie. Do you know what I mean? She was on one of the biggest shows on the planet at that time. You know, this is another reason why Trump is like so obsessed with like ratings and people being at his inauguration and stuff, because at one point he's the leader of the free world, right? But at one point he was like very high in rating. Like that kind of shit is important to him, right? Because it was, he had attained those heights, right? So I just need you to understand like that this was such a big deal versus the housewives. Like like the people who knew NeNe Leakes and the people who knew Shereé Whifield, we're talking about tens of millions of difference, right? So they're all extremely jealous. And then she's like, and you know, she went off on Dionne Warwick, Star Jones, LaToya Jackson. And she's like, these are A-list people. Yeah, they are. And she's on the television show with Dionne Warwick and LaToya Jackson, and you're not. You know what I mean? And I wonder what would have been the reception if you're screaming at LaToya Jackson. Like, what the fuck? And also, she's doing that for ratings. It's not like they were really fighting. You know, it's like the same. It's like, you know, you guys are doing stuff for the show, right? We all know that just deep down. So they're getting in arguments for the show because that's what people want to watch. Okay, so anyway, Kim continues and she says, I think NeNe working with Donald Trump has really made her delusional. She needs to humble herself because as fast as you can come up, you can go down. And oh, actually, that was sorry, that got confused. That was Shereé telling us that in a confessional. So Kim says, you know, the truth always surfaces about people, and whatever. So then they're talking about Kim and Kroy, and Kim is so happy that she's met Kroy because he balances her out and he's not crazy and all this stuff. And then they pan out and they're eating at Stony River, and I was like, this bitch loves Stony River, like. She's always going to Stony River. Like, it is good, but is it that good? Like, you've filmed at this restaurant multiple times. I don't know why. That makes me laugh. Okay, so we have a scene where Phaedra and Apollo are taking their son for a walk, and she's trying to talk him into working for her funeral business, and he's like, absolutely not. And now we go to the scene where it's Kim and Kroy's birthday, and so Kroy is taking her out to dinner for her birthday, but they're really Sweetie's at home and they're really throwing her a surprise party. So when they get home, everybody's going to be there, and it's just like the people that we know. So it was immediately after they leave, but then Kim, they get in the car, and then she has to get out of the car because she has to pee again. Like, that's how pregnant she is, but she's only like 7 months pregnant. And I'm like, oh, you got a miserable 2 months to go, babe. So Sweetie's setting up everything, and she's like nervous and constantly texting people and all this stuff. And one thing I thought was funny, at the dinner table, they're talking, and Kim is like listing out all of, like, the aesthetic procedures she wants to do after she has this baby. Like, she wants a tummy tuck and a boob job and a facial and that laser treatment. And they have 3 more children after this. So I know she got those procedures now because, to be honest, she does not look anything like she looks at this time. She looks good. I'm not saying she doesn't look good, but it's just like sometimes these before and after pictures where, yes, they look the same age, which is weird in itself, but you actually don't even look like yourself. It's just, I don't know. For me, I just, a little Botox, fine. A little nip tuck here and there, but to like Kyle Richards, if you want to see good work, you look at Kyle Richards. Now, she's had a nose job. So if you've seen some of her early like acting, you're like, that's not the same nose. It's not, because for whatever reason, those women in that family, even like Paris Hilton, I feel like has like that distinct nose that they have. But so she's got a nose job. But if you look at pictures from her from like season 1 and you look at pictures from her like now, the differences are so subtle you cannot spot it. In Kim, it's like the whole package, right? But anyway, so I don't think that she was out having all these procedures because I feel like they just had all these babies in quick succession. So she's talking about procedures, and Kroy's talking about taking the baby to the gun range. And she's like, my baby's not going to have a gun. and we start to see maybe a little bit of who Kroy is. He seems like a very nice person. He's from Montana. He cares about guns, if that's giving you any hint of who this person is. So he gives her some kind of bracelet with chocolate diamonds that's like several $1,000s. And she's like, oh, I've wanted this bracelet for years. And he's like, yeah, okay. So then they come home, and before they can even walk in the door, she has to pee. So then she's in the bathroom peeing, and like camera crew's there. Everybody's in the kitchen waiting, like crouched down so she won't see until they can yell out surprise. It's so funny. So Shereé, Phaedra, Kandi, Derek J is there, and Kandi tells us, Kim and I still have some weirdness, but we never miss each other's birthday, and I think that our birthdays are a good time for us to get back on track. They jump out and they yell surprise. And you know who I noticed was missing? Because there was like some non-show people that, remember that girl that was always with her? I can't remember what her name was. It was like her best friend. And she was always filming with her because obviously she can't film with Big Papa. And she like was literally everywhere with her. Like she came to Brielle's birthday parties and all this stuff. She was not there. And I feel like maybe, I don't remember seeing her. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm just going to keep my eyes open for her. I wonder if she was like a Big Papa plant that was like reporting on her to Big Papa, or if they had some kind of falling out, or if she doesn't like Kroy. Like, what's the deal? Like, where did this girl go? Because she was up her ass. Anyway, TBD. So then they're all kind of sitting around talking, and Kim asks Kandi about Miami, and Candy's like, it's cool. And Shereé was like, well, how did it happen that you went to Miami with them when you've barely spoken to NeNe for how many years? Shereé says, NeNe always has an ulterior motive when she's recruiting new friends. I guess she would have to now because all she has to talk to is Cynthia, and I'd probably want somebody else to talk to. The subtle shade. And Kandi is like, you know what? I've always liked her, and her and Cynthia are pretty cool together. And Kim goes, yeah, that's because Cynthia doesn't have a backbone. And Candy's like, well, I don't know anything about that, but I do know one thing I can tell y'all. She is rich now. And everybody's like laughing and jumping. And they're all talking about all this shit about what's going on with NeNe. And Candy's like, you know, I try to stay out of all this stuff, of course, but if they're going to say something funny, I'm going to laugh at it. Which is, again, like, if you're friends with everyone, you're friends to no one. So then at some point, Kim is, oh, no, he hired a massage. She's getting a massage in the middle of her own surprise party. So very strange. Like, sometimes these people do things and I'm like, that is so weird. And I'm like, I just have to move on. I can't focus on this. But so she's getting a massage. And so now all the girls are like honed in on Kroy and they're just like grilling him with questions. But he seems to be like impressing them all with his answers. And Kandi is like, well, what's your plans after football? Because again, he is a professional, that career is limited. And he says that he loves outdoors and he wants to start his own business with some kind of outdoorsman type stuff. And they're like, you're going to do that in Atlanta? And he's like, no, in Montana. So I just want you that we're starting to cross purposes here, because there ain't no way on the planet your girl Kim Zolciak is moving to Montana. It's not happening. But that's the end of the episode. So, you know, we're still just going on. Totally two different groups here. Now, this also starts a pattern on Housewives where we start with like this big, great divide. We start the whole season and then we get to come together and then we have more fights. Other people have fights and there's changing dynamics all the time. And that's just kind of like the pattern of Housewives. But I don't know if I guess maybe in, Bethany and Jill, their big fight, but I feel like we haven't really started, other than that, a season with like a big fight where people weren't talking to each other. So we'll see how that plays out. And we'll see you in the next episode. As always, a rating review is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.